Now, Patrick.
Take an old Jacobean chessboard. Have black and white squares on it. I knew you played chess in a kind of amateur way, but this is rather special. The lerpings are the black and white squares on the chessboard that are occupied by each side before the game begins. So that, was it not Rowbottom, the old Jacobean chess master? It said, cause thyself to retire thy knight to the lerping of thy queen.
That was old Rowbottom, was it? Well,
That was good old Rowbottom.
Yeah, well, then old Rowbottom said that it was a chess square, and then another definition was a hingeless gate, and the other one was snapping the fingers. Miles Kington to choose.
I think it's Paddy, but that's good. I think I go for the gate.
Anytime you're ready, lads.
We're indulging in democracy over here. And precious little good it's done me. I'm sorry that Ian comes from such a sheltered background that is a very rude gesture. Still, it's a nice thought. I shall try it on my relations later. The hingeless gate. Paddy, didn't understand yours.
Very again?
Go for the gate. Go for the gate. I'm going for the gate.
The hingeless gate of which you spoke, didn't you, Sinead? Yes, it was you. True or bluff? Oh. No. No, wasn't that. Who gave the true definition of this word? He got it. Really does mean snapping the fingers, which was very rude when gentlemen were gentlemen. 3-0, my goodness me. Bombora is the next word. Miles, you define it.
Oh, my God.
No, it isn't. Is it? Oh, pardon, yes, a little fainting fit. I'm all right, though.
You're all right now.
Yes, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Couldn't believe your good luck, I say. 3-0. Carry on, Miles. Yes.
Mate is a refreshing kind of tea drunk... Oh, no, I'm getting around to it. In South America, especially Venezuela and Brazil and Argentina. It's brewed piping hot and is drunk without sugar, without milk, and is a great favourite of the gauchos on the plain, who usually drink it, in fact, in silver caskets, but it's more commonly in the towns drunk from, and this is where it starts, a bombera, or hollowed-out gourd for drinking mate.
Right, it's what you drink it from. Good. Penelope?
Well, if you saw a bombera in a murky light or far away, you might think it was a hairy, suntanned little child with nothing on. If you got closer... It's a hairy little... If you got closer, you'd see it was sort of pygmy chimpanzee, which you usually find in the upper Congo basin, and is very cheerful and likes lots of games and larks. And, in fact, when it talks, it sounds as though it's laughing. Ha, 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 ha. That's
Some fun there.
Offensive little beast it sounds. Frank, you have a go.
It's an incredible thought that if a bomber suddenly turned up near Bondi Beach, the beach would soon be littered with broken surfboards and ruptured surfers. For, as any Australian, I mean, pick an Australian at random, and he will tell you that a bombela means a dangerous stretch of water marked by little waves where the sea is pierced by razor-edged rocks.
Well said.
Which I can't say.
So, it's a fearfully good-humoured chimpanzee. It's a gourd from which you drink tea, or they do, and it's dangerous water, kind of waves and that, very dangerous. Ian Ogilvy.
Democracy here.
Yes, a bit of democracy. Venezuelan tea gourd hollowed out, I've got here.
I think that's pretty accurate.
That's pretty good, isn't it? I suppose it could be. We'll pass on. Frank said it was a dangerous bit of Australian water.
I did, sir.
Yes, it sounds a bit Australian.
Yes, sir.
But
I'm buying it.
But we're going to go for the Congolese pygmy chimp.
Ah, the Upper Amazon, as I remember it. Well, I don't know, but anyway, you did say, didn't you, Penelope? True or bluff? Oh, no. True definition, if you will.
Well, it's here for your sport.
Dangerous water, bombora, is. Bibung is the next word. Sinead.
Well, I really think that this word should be pronounced bebong, because it would be more onomatopoeically descriptive of its meaning. Because bebong means the pulsating or the trembling of a musical note, like a tremolo effect. Especially on a clavichord, where you can get the bebong by variable pressures of the fingertips on the clavichord.
Great. Well, now, Patrick.
On a note of high drama, I can now reveal that a bibang is a clump of trees that produce chocolate seeds.
Is that all?
Yep.
Chocolate seeds.
Yep.
Well, not milk chocolate.
No. Kind of tree chocolate tree, but a tree, from the bibang tree there fall cascades of stuff that can be turned into tons of chocolate. Now, the interesting thing, apart from the high drama bit about a revelation, is that under the bibang tree, it's cooler than it is under any other tree in Central America. Thank you.
Ian, your go.
A bibang is the principal armament of a guaracho, which is a Filipino peasant. And it's a sort of curved sword. It looks a bit like a boomerang. It's very sharp, and he uses it for practically everything.
Cutting down chocolate trees.
Yes. He also uses it... he can use it for killing his enemies, cutting his way through the swamps, or carving the Sunday joint, or whatever. It's very sharp. It's a bibung.
So it's a tremolo effect in music. It's a cool sort of cocoa tree, and it's a sword. Penelope Keith.
It's a sword that a guaracho Filipino servant. Do they have Sunday joints, Ian? No, I don't think I believe it's that. Chocolate tree. Patrick, you could make a fortune if you could only find the seeds of this tree and plant it all over the place.
The bibang seeds, that's all.
Bibang seeds. And it's so cool underneath that tree. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I think it's that wonderful sound that Sinead made so beautifully.
Yes, she did do it rather well. I wonder, was she telling the truth? She was. It's the twanging effect, you know. That's what a bebop... Sorry, I didn't mean to ring more than once, lads. Stoof is the next word, and it's Penelope's turn.
Well, it was always very stuffy in a stoof. Because it was a place that a corpulent lord went to sweat away his excess tissues and poundage. It was, in fact, a room, like a hothouse, any sort of room, where there was a stove or form of heating, that this lord would go in and sweat very, very slowly, like cooking a meringue. It was like an early Turkish bath, only quite a gentle one.
So, yes, now it's Frank's turn.
Don't really want to dwell on this. It just sort of passed like... It's a sort of fish louse. It's nature, so it must be all right, but it's a tiny little thing, and it settles on host fish in freshwaters, bream and chub and that sort of thing. And it's like a tiny little clove, I suppose you say. It hangs around the gills of... It's a... There. Brush them off before you eat the fish.
Yes. Well, Miles, what do you say?
Well, if you go on an English bus, you often see a man walking up and down who is an inspector, and he is there to see that the customers are not cheating the bus company. But in Glasgow in the old days, and I know there can be a lot of letters from Scottish viewers when I say this, Glasgow in the old days, they had a thing called a stoof who got on the bus, walked up and down making sure that the conductor wasn't cheating the bus company. He was a very, very early sort of industrial spy who made sure that the customers' fares didn't stay in the bus conductor's pocket long after the time he got home.
Right, so it's a fish louse. It's a kind of a hothouse, an early Turkish bath kind of effort, and it's a spy, a snooper. Sinead, your turn to choose.
Well, I'm afraid I don't really believe in Penny's olden day sauna. My womanly intuition says no to that one. The fish louse, well, all the times that I've gone to fishmongers and bought my chub and my bream and things, I've never heard of this stoof. He's never told me about it, my fishmonger. Oh, well. So I think my bet is going to be the Glaswegian industrial spy, I think.
That was Miles, wasn't it? True or bluff?
Bluff.
Yeah. Nothing. True definition coming up. One of them's got it.
Is stuffy in a stoof?
Yes. Hothouse, place where you go and have a sweat. Friol. Mangolin, I suppose you might pronounce it. I don't know. Patrick.
Called a marhalin. It's a very belligerent beetle that lives in Brazil. And the trouble about this beetle is it's also called the bombardier beetle, because if provoked, it emits a little drop of fluid or two, but with a tiny report and a small bluish cloud of smoke.
Don't care to add anything to that.
No, I've done it.
Leave it alone. It's good stuff, is that? Ian.
It's not a marchelin, it's a mangelin. It's a French word, and you'd expect to eat it, being mange, but you don't. You hang it off a trumpet. Or a cornet. It's a little flag. It's a little silk flag that hangs off a trumpet or a cornet. And if you're very grand and you want to show off, you have your own personal coat of arms on it. It's a mangelin.
Yep. OK. Sinead, what does she say?
Well, I say a mangelin, but I'm not quite certain about that. And it was used as a weight once upon a time in Ceylon for weighing precious stones. And it was roughly equal in weight to 7 grains Troy weight. Now, it might also interest you to know that in the 16th century, diamonds exceeding 200 mangelins were quite often hewn from the Cingalese soil.
Well, there, you've got it all there, all to go on. It's a flag dangling from a trumpet. It's a beetle that disappears in a puff of blue smoke or thereabouts. Or appears one, or does it at certain times. And it's a weight against which you weigh precious stones in Ceylon, or did. Frank?
Yeah, well, it's a bit neck and crop at the moment, isn't it? I don't think the weighing one is the things and Sinead's. Beautifully done, but I don't think it's either this silken flag or the belligerent beetle. The trouble is, if I choose the belligerent beetle and it isn't, Patrick's going to be so merciless. You believe that load of rubbish? Or is it this silk flag that drops down and says bang? And the conjurer's pistols? Eeny, meeny, miny. We'll go for the beetle. Give Patrick a bit of
That is what Patrick had the nerve to tell us, yes. Was it true or bluff?
Little puff of blue smoke.
Yeah, he was pretty well pleased with that as well. He might. Who gave the true definition of this word?
Would it not have been little tiny...
Yes, it was. It's the weight that they use or use in Ceylon to weigh precious stones against. Guyver's the next word, and it's Frank Muir.
It's quite simply, it's a mucker-upper of picnics in West Africa. It's just a fairly revolting gnat. And it's got a sort of mauve head and is corpulent and has lacy wings. Apart from that, there isn't much else to say about it.
OK, well, Miles now.
Well, we've taken you to New South Wales and Bondi Beach, and the next one is actually just a general Australian word. Jiver means roughly an affectation of speech. Now, the Australian has two natural enemies, anything that stops it from swimming, and an Englishman, Pommy. And Pommies open their mouths and utter jivers. You know, if Lilly or Thompson were bowling at an English batsman and tried to knock his head off, and the batsman said, "That's going a bit stiff, old chap, isn't it?" Lilly or Thompson would say, "Thou come the flaming jiver with me."
Australians.
Trips off the tongue nicely, that, yes. Penelope.
Well, a guyver is a lump of abrasive stone, like pumice stone or sandstone, that was held in the hand and used to scrub or scour the skin of an animal while you were making it into parchment to write upon. But you must always use the guyver on the hairy side of the skin. See, to make it nice and smooth to write upon.
OK, they say it's this abrasive stone for doing what she said. It's a kind of affected speech, according to the Australians, and it's an African gnat. Patrick.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Is it ready?
Just one second.
Might get another one in.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Depends.
Everyone
Yeah, it
Australian
does,
argot, we've heard about it before, kind of newspaper reports that they had a brutal game. A scrubbing thing. No, it's a filthy side. Wait a minute, isn't it? Is it?
Shall I go through the whole thing again?
No.
Get another word.
It's an Australian. It's an African fly.
The African gnat. Frank, true or bluff? No. Let's make it exciting. The true one now, before we swiftly pass on. Ka-chow, yeah. Affected speech. Now, if we're fairly brisk, we don't have to rush it. How nice, 4-all, lurge, and Ian Ogilvy kicks off.
It means to lay about, to lounge around, to lurge with intent to do nothing. Basically. That's what
Basically,
to
on the
lurge is.
whole, yes. Right. Sinead?
Lurge is a watercolourist's name for an over-mixture of paint that has lost its transparency and become slightly muddy. And you can achieve this by mixing burnt sienna, vermilion and Prussian blue.
Luminous. Patrick, what do you say?
A lurge is a round pad, usually made of velvet, employed by Victorian valets. It's a round pad covered with velvet, good spit on it, for the purpose of polishing your employer's top hat.
So, yes, excellent. So it's to loaf about, lounge about. It's a hat polisher, and it's paint that's got all kind of muddy, opaque, that kind of thing. So it's Miles to choose.
Oh. Yes.
I've got my notes mixed up here. It's muddy, valets, overmixed. Lay about. I've got that down. I think I'll go for that one.
Oh, that was very swift. It was Ian who said that, wasn't it? Was it true? Because everything depends on this, you know. What an absolutely astonishing bullseye. And, well, you may look
I want to change my mind.
3-0.
Now you're playing with him now. How awful. Anyway, there. So it all hinged on that, and the score standing at, 4-5. Frank has just won, haven't you? Yes. 3 cheers. Very good. And, of course, Patrick and Co. very nearly won, didn't they? So we'll have another rummage round the attics of the Oxford English Dictionary next week. Until then, goodbye from Ian Ogilvy, Miles Kington, Sinead Cusack, Penelope Keith, Patrick Campbell, Frank Muir, and goodbye. Hello again. Another game called My Bluff, where the dice are loaded by Frank Muir.
My guests are Beauty and the Beast, I suppose. But about the second half. But the first, certainly, is a Beauty, and here back on the programme again, and none too soon, Gabrielle Drake. My next, not a beast really, is arguably one of the best three writers now writing humour in England, and from the pages of Punch, Tatler, Daily Mirror and other journals too humorous to mention, we have plucked Alan Coren.
And the thinking man's Eamon Andrews, Patrick Campbell.
And my first guess is a woman. She's a female doctor. She's the wife of Tom Stoppard, the brilliant playwright, but her name is Miriam Stoppard. And we have here on the right the Time Lord, called Doctor, not which, Doctor Who, Tom Baker.
We ring the bell and we get the first word, and as you recall, rumpty. Well, that's the word. Rumpty is going to be defined three different ways by Frank Muir, two of those, and co. And those two of those definitions are going to be false ones. One is true, and that's the one I think that Patrick and co are going to try and pick out. So, what about this word, Frank?
Rumpty. Rumpty is thereby hangs no tail, because it's what an Englishman calls a Manx cat.
Ah,
Rumpty,
yes.
You see. And thereby hangs no tail, because Manx cats don't have tails. Not impressing him very much, am I? I say advisedly that it's the English word for a Manx cat, because actually the Manx people themselves call their cats a stubbin.
What a load of... Next, please.
Could be true. You never know. Alan Coren, your turn.
Very sentimental moment now. We have actually to go back to a time when, instead of, as it is now, the pound was a fraction of something else, there were actually fractions of a pound. The pound was large enough to have small bits. And what a rumpty was actually a 32nd part of a pound, or 7.5D, which was used by Victorian stockbrokers to denote ups and downs of the market. As it were, they would say, I see Patagonian tramcars went up another rumpty last night.
Yeah, well. Gabrielle Drake.
My one claim to fame is an uncle who's no less than a general in the British Army, and he it was who first told me about rumpty, because rumpty is in fact army slang for a sort of army issue meat which was issued to the officers in the First World War. It was a mixture of sort of chopped ham and chicken and was considered vastly superior to bully beef, although apparently, according to my uncle, it was a lot more greasy.
Well, it's a special sort of mixture of meat, rather greasy for the officers. It's a Manx cat, and it's kind of broker's vernacular, that sort of thing. Patrick, your go.
Yes, well, if officers was noshing ham and chicken in the First World War, I don't believe stockbrokers. I've got a little note here that says a tailor's cap. Obviously, or it'd be tailor's cat.
Do you know how to spell C-A-T-K-A-T?
Oh, bon, merci, yes. Well, it certainly isn't anything like that. It's the kind of stockbroker's chat coin.
That was Alan. Yes, you said that. Were you speaking the truth, or?
I wish I hadn't.
Ka-chow. Very hard to imagine it, but really stockbrokers did in those days speak of that kind of money as rumpty. Here we have nums. Patrick's go.
If you could bear a little bit of kind of 1920 kind of chat, like the cat's whiskers. She was the cat's whiskers. She was talking about nums, because nums was an old Cockney word for cat's whiskers. A little wandering pussy. You caught her by the back of the neck, held her up, snipped off the nums. She would stay at home. Nums, cat's whiskers. Thank you.
Tom Baker's go.
The geographical position of the nums is 14 degrees 10 north, 4 degrees 14 west, which puts it southwest, at the southwestern tip of the Menai Strait between Anglesey and Wales. I think probably for people who don't understand about navigation, any landlubbers here would rather know that it's actually a very, very fierce section of water, which is the nightmare of any sea captain sailing his ship, say, 4 miles off Carnarvon.
Would be, wouldn't it? Yes. What is it?
Yes,
Russian current.
he'd sooner go the long way round, I dare say. Miriam Stoppard, your turn.
Well, now, every dandy needs a nums, because a nums was an 18th century sartorial subterfuge, which we might in modern terms term a dickie. It was a sham collar plus shirt front, which gentlemen, after a very busy day of social engagements and finding their shirts rather grubby and creased at the front, would put on this nice little white dickie you see and present a good face to the world.
Right, well, it's a word for cat's whiskers. It's a word for a false shirt front, and it's a kind of rather dangerous bit of water. Frank.
Had it been a navigation term, I wouldn't have known about it. So that's not very helpful, is it?
It's a good start, Frank. A good start.
I can't read what I've put here. A dickie, 18th century dickie. I've never heard of that. I know I should have done, but I've never heard of the rushing water. Cat's whiskers is absolute rubbish, so it must be the cat's whiskers.
Well, it was Patrick who said that, wasn't it? Yes. Oh, true or bluff?
Unforgettably.
Let's see now. Here he comes. Nothing to do with the cat's whiskers. Someone's got to own up now. Here it comes. Who gave the true one?
Oh, it isn't.
Yes. The false dickie or shirt front. That's what it is. 2-0, I say. That's not a bad word. Trolley bobs. Alan, your turn.
Nasty time. It's a time actually to put the children to bed and the cat under the stairs and turn your faces away from the screen if you're of a nervous disposition, because trolley bobs are the nastier bits and pieces of animals. The pancreatic bits, the odd bits of diseased liver, the appendix, all the sort of stuff you find in an animal which aren't entirely edible but might be and may end up being fed to your cat or dog. It's rather like numbles from humble pie, you know? It's bits and pieces of an animal which have no use after the animal is dead. But there they are, red and horrible.
Right. Got to be called something. Gabrielle, your turn.
No doubt your great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers wouldn't have known exactly what trolley bobs was, because trolley bobs was a children's game. And unfortunately, the rules haven't come down now to us. We do know, though, that it was best played on all fours. It was played on a flat surface, like a paving stone, out of doors, and usually they used to use little round pebbles. So, I mean, it was a game available to the rich and the poor.
What a charming thought.
Well, that much was in its favour, wasn't it? Frank, you'll go.
Well, you come down the Menai Straits and carried by the tide, and you eventually find Cornwall with a bit of luck, you see, and wrenching off your clothes and tearing off your numbs, you plunge into the briny and start swimming, and the longshoremen say, "Dewey, watch out!" The accent is approximate, because they could have moved to Cornwall from another part of the country. But they, "Dewey, watch out for the trolley bobs," which are jellyfish.
Are they?
Ah. Well, it's one of those games. It's some of those entrails, and it's one of those jellyfish. Tom Baker.
Well, I'm very impressed by Alan's suggestion that it was the droppings of animals in nurseries or in pancreatic juices scattered about the place. And I like Frank's notion about look out for the trolley bobs, which might be jellyfish.
Good, isn't it?
But because I'm very impressionable, and yours sounded plausible and so socially interesting, I think it's a game for kids.
That was Gabrielle. Now, were you teasing? Oh, yes, Who gave the true definition of that interesting word?
Well, I hate to bring all the nastiness up again,
but not the unspeakable.
It's entrails. No question about that. Trolley bobs is entrails. Are entrails. In Coney we have next. Tom Baker tells us what it means to begin with.
The pronunciation is Inkany. Inkany was an adjective that came flashing into prominence about 1600 and lasted for some little time and caused some considerable stir. And then quite inexplicably, it just slid out of the general vocabulary.
Oh, dear.
Which is a great tragedy. And I think it was Christopher Marlowe, yes, I'm certain now I come to consider it was Christopher Marlowe in that soft porn poem, The Jew of Malta, who used it so beautifully, I think. He said, "Love me little, love me long, let music rumble, while I in thy Inkany lap do tumble." And the meaning is,
I don't think we wish to know.
Fine, soft, gentle, alluring.
From 1600?
Yes.
Thank you. Next.
Your scansion was never Marlowe's strong point, was it? Miriam Stoppard, your turn.
Well, now, you historians of the culinary arts will recognise the word immediately because, of course, it was a Tudor word for carving fish. But Tudor English being richer than English at the present time, they had several words for carving for the appropriate sort of fish. So, for instance, one would chine a salmon, or culpen a trout, or scar a bream. And Inkany was the word that was used when you attacked a pike with your fish carver.
Yep.
Pike.
Yep.
Carving pike.
Why not? Patrick, his go. He tells us now.
You'll find that Inkany is absolutely awful. Terror, dread, nameless fears. It's the kind of thing that appears. You can't see it. You can't even smell it. You can't even hear it come. But Inkany is a fearful kind of invisible demon. With the back of the neck. No. It's a kind of nameless dread.
Whoa, yeah, well, and it's a kind of invisible demon, he said. It means something fine or delicate, and it's a special Tudor word for carving a pike. Alan Coren.
Tom, it came in 1600 or it went out in 1600?
Well, I can't be absolutely
Very
certain about that. It was. I think it was before, but it was around 1600.
You see, there are millions of people out there who expect us to know our Marlowe inside out. And we reckon that the Jew of Malta, having been written in 1587, Inconny probably wasn't in it. Anyway, it's a terrible word. You can see why he was stabbed in the tavern if he was using stuff like that. The critics would have had. I don't think it's that. I am very doubtful about the thing that frightens Patrick. Nothing, I feel, frightens Patrick, whether he can smell or see it or whatever else. I am inclined to go... Was it a verb that you... Or was it a thing for carving pike?
No, it was a verb, the way that one does
It's a
it.
funny verb, isn't it?
They had funny words in Tudor English.
I think it's Patrick's fear.
It was Patrick, the phantom. He was kind of nameless, dread phantom, that kind of thing. Are we telling the truth, lad? Not for a minute. Nothing to do. No, nothing of that sort. Someone else must own up now.
It was searching around.
Who gave
here.
the true one? Someone has, yes. Here it is.
But who's got it? You pushed it down the hole.
Oh, this is to drag the drama
They've
out
got it.
intolerably. He's got it there.
Don't give it
Don't
to
give it-
him.
The first time I...
Give it to me, I'll...
You mustn't give it to me, you know. People will talk if you do that. So, actually, the true definition was fine and delicate and so forth. I don't know all about that and Marlowe and so forth, but the definition was the true one, no question. Toggy's the next one. Gabrielle.
If I ever went for a stroll around the North Pole, being a very cold person, I'd be very thankful I had my toggy on. Because, in fact, a toggy is a nice, thick, heavy overcoat. Not very fashionable or beautiful. It's made of patches of reindeer skin, and it's, in short, it's an overcoat that's worn in the Arctic regions.
Yes. Frank, your go.
A toggy is a long, thin pole at the top of which, spasmodically, there's a window, and at the bottom of which, the south end, you might say, stands a chap called a knocker-upper. And a knocker-upper used to walk around the streets of mining towns and industrial towns and knock up the people, 5:30 in the morning or something, to say, "Time to get up." And he'd go tonk, tonk, tonk with his stick, his toggy, because it had to reach to the bedroom windows. So it's a long...
Pardon me. Yes.
I want to bang on the window. Yes, right, Alan.
Well, our side had problems with this, because if any of you is an old Harrovian, you'll know immediately what it was, because it's old Harrow slang. We rather thought that Miriam might well be an old...
Very well be.
Other two are clearly Vulgarians. But, you know, a very simple piece of Harrovian slang. It just means a swat. Over-industrious boy.
Won't say, but wait, there's not much more you could say after that. No, it's a swat, knocker-up's pole, and a coat you'd wear in very cold weather, in the Arctic particularly. Miriam.
Well...
I don't know, it's fair to say.
Yes, it's fair to say we all don't know.
Do you know?
Yes, a fair bluff. Well, it certainly does sound like a slang word, Frank. You know, the pole, the elongated barber's pole for knocking people up in the morning. It sounds like that, true. And it sounds also the sort of word that might be used at school for a swat. But I'm attracted to the polar overcoat, the reindeer skin job.
You're going to choose that, are you, my dear? You
I
are,
think they're
yes.
slipping over our
Are you well advised? Now, Gabrielle will own up and tell you. Was it the Arctic overcoat?
It's true!
It is! Yes. Not clear who calls them toggies. I don't know whether the Eskimos or the people who visit there call it.
Stoppard does.
Dr. Stoppard certainly does, yes. She knows what's what. So here we have O-B-E, yes. But I don't know how you pronounce it. O-B-E. Miriam.
Well, now, if you'd been at Runnymede about the time of the signing of the Magna Carta, you might have come sleepily out of your tent and said, "Lo, it is Obe," because Obe was the 13th century word for daybreak or dawn. It was the beginning of the day. And perhaps if Kipling had been around, he might have said, "The Aube is coming up like thunder in the road to Mandalay," in deference to you, Alan.
He just might, yeah. I think that's fair to say. Patrick Campbell's go.
You take the west coast of America around about the 1880s. A kind of Japanese kind of pouring in by canoe and that kind of thing, bringing with them tea. Not palatable to the Americans, 1880, around by San Francisco, California, but they toasted the tea. It was called oabe.
They pressed it into toasted tea cakes.
No, just toasted the plain tea out of the packet. Called oabe. Thank you.
Next.
Right, yes. Tom Baker is the next.
An Aube was an administrative district in the ancient Greek country of Laconia. Now, Laconia, as you know, has for its neighbours the Arcadians, but that's a diversion. What is important about the inhabitants of the Aube was that they were by temperament quite not timid, they were diffident, withdrawn, taciturn, laconic, I think would be the word.
Ah, well, it means daybreak, it means that kind of district of Greece, and it's a kind of toasted tea. Gabrielle.
An actual district of Greece.
Area.
Yes.
Yes, it was administered by districts, and an Aube was an administrative district.
An Aube was an administrative district, yes. I don't know. I'm not totally convinced by that. And this Oabe, it's a marvellous pronunciation of the word, and I would have never guessed that it had been pronounced like that, and I don't think it really was. I would have liked to have come out of my tent sleepily at Runnymede to greet the Aube. I think it's the dawn.
You think it's the dawn? It was Miriam. Yes, Miriam. You said it. Is that true?
Well, I'm afraid Gabrielle would have been...
No, it wasn't. It must have been one of the others. Here it comes. He's got it. He's got it! That administrative district of Greece that stood him so well in stead. I say, 5-1.
Don't go on about it.
No. Be red faces after the programme, I can tell you. Gurjon, Frank.
Gurjon is Gurjon, maybe, is a tree in the Philippines. But it's not just... It is no ordinary common or garden tree, this one. It's got bark on it. Well, I suppose some. But it's got sort of greyish bark, which the islanders pound down under pressure and whack and extract from it a substance, a sort of gooey substance, which they use for face cream, and they use on their canoes as well. Not at the same time. It's Gurjon...
Face cream on canoes?
No. The ladies use face cream, but the chaps, stuck for something to slap on their canoes, put a bit of Gurjon on. It's highly reckoned in the Philippines. Your Japanese might have had it on their canoes.
Oh, I'll bet.
I think it's about time you butted in, Alan.
I'm tired of dabbling in nastiness this evening, but a gurgeon is actually a falconry term, and it's a piece of meat that gets stuck in the throat of your falcon or hawk, prevents it from swallowing, interferes with its flight. And the only way to get it out is sort of take your hawk upside down and go like that, and it shoots out. A bit of rubbish in the throat of your hawk.
So, Gabrielle, will you tell us?
Yes, a gourjon, or a pair of gourjons, would have been worn by ladies in medieval times. They were stockings, really, made of a soft dough-like leather and held up by a nice little tiny row of leather buttons at the back. Luckily, zips hadn't been invented then, or they might have got stuck.
Okay, so it's a kind of it's a bit of food that the bird can't swallow. It's a soft leather stocking, and I think I'm safe in saying it's a substance. Yes, it's a substance that they rub into the... Would that be all cover it pretty well? Yeah. Patrick.
And how one can guess that a thing called a substance it can be an elephant's toenail?
At 5 to 1, you could force yourself.
Who's doing the guessing, you or me? Without doubt, absolute nonsense about a leather stocking and blocking falcons' necks with glue. It's a face cream for putting on canoe.
Now, Frank.
See it now?
Oh,
I say
it's
it.
We did tell you that now, I mean, after all, yeah. So it's what he said it was. And it comes from a tree. I'm not sure whether, the tree produces the substance. And then they do with it what they will. Choot or chout. Patrick.
You possibly remember the Marathas, a tribe, a kind of marauding tribe around about central India, early 18th century. You've got the Marathas kind of boiling in, and they conquer you. And say, can we have your choot, please? Which was a quarter of the national income. And if the people that had been conquered failed to pay, these Marathas they retired for a week or two and came back again and asked for it all over again. A tax.
A tax, in the sense of an tax, yes, not a tax on...
Anthrax, yes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Tax what you pay, that kind of, yeah. Tom.
Oh, a chout is a label which merchants used to use formerly, some still do in remote areas, by which they label their goods or their livestock at markets. Of course, many years ago, when very few people could read, the chout took quite a simple form. Sometimes it was a bit of coloured wool tied around a cow's horn, or it might be something slightly more elaborate, like a metal star, which would be stuck quite deeply into the flank of a vegetable marrow. That's the chout.
Yeah. Miriam Stoppard.
Well, sensually speaking, the chout provides 50% of the pleasure during osculation. It's the lower lip. It's a countryman's word for the lower lip. Now, in the part of the country that I come from, which is Geordieland, Tyneside, when a child pouts a bit and he's feeling a bit depressed and sulky, we say he's got a pet lip. But now I know the correct countryman's term. One should say he's hanging the chout. He's a bit down in the mouth.
So it's the lower lip. It's a kind of a tax that these marauders exacted, and it's a label that you sometimes stick into a vegetable marrow. Frank?
If you stick a label into a vegetable marrow, it sort of expires, doesn't it? It bleeds. You couldn't stick anything into it. I must say, it's very tempting to think of the maracas sweeping through India in the medieval times. Danegeld, sort of Indian word for Danegeld.
No, long after, dear. Long after that.
Oh, yes. I think it must be the lower lip.
The lower lip. That was Miriam, wasn't it, who spoke of that? I wonder if she was pulling your leg, Frank. Oh, she was.
She was.
That was just so much Tilly Valley. Who gave the true definition? Here it is! Didn't sound likely, did it? But there you are. That's, I suppose, what this game is all about. And we really don't have much time. Indeed, we have no time for any more. And what I have to announce... Are you sure? Do you want to go on?
Yeah.
But anyway, the score, I hardly like to announce it, it's so obvious. The score standing at 7-1. Patrick and Curve won. Taking it on the chin. Sportsman. Well, we shall have some more old bottle tops from the Oxford English Dictionary next week. Until then, goodbye from Alan Coren. Bye. Tom Baker. Gabrielle Drake. Miriam Stoppard. Frank Muir.
Goodbye.
Patrick Campbell. And goodbye. Call my bluff where the words are dealt off the bottle of... are dealt off the bottle of the pack... the bottom of the pack, by Patrick Campbell.
The bottom of the pack, good evening. I have brought my doctor back again from the bottom of the pack. A lovely Miriam Stoppard. We've got the other hairy doctor here. It's a Tom Baker.
The man who weaves his own bow ties, Frank Muir.
Though it's the remark of a male chauvinist dove, I welcome back with pleasure the utterly delightful actress Gabrielle Drake. And also earning the second half of his fee is literary wordsmith, incorrigible, Alan Coren. Very well.
You may never do better, who knows? You ring the bell, we get a word. Galliac, yes, Galliac. And Patrick Campbell and his team will define Galliac 3 different ways. 2 of those definitions are false, 1 true. That's the one that Frank and Co. will try and seek out. So, what about this word, Patrick?
Galliac was a rather roughish French wine, but quaffed by the gallon by Henry VIII. 3 tons of this was consumed by Henry VIII in 15... A moment, I've read my notes. 1550. Little white wine from Languedoc. A little bit gauche and frivolous, you know.
Aren't we all?
Kind of too much kind of after flash after you've drunk it. But that's all it was.
Tom Baker's go. He tells you.
Well, a galliac was a smallish but highly maneuverable Portuguese vessel, which was used not far off the coast for boarding offending vessels and capturing them and things like that. I can't really think of anything interesting to say about galliac, but I can possibly think of one thing that would be useful, and that is that in design, the cut of its jib, do you say, gig, it wasn't all that unlike a Gravesend tilt boat. I hope that's of some help.
That's got information.
Miriam, will you tell us?
Well, a galliac was the North Country word given to a rather sort of antisocial gypsy that arrived here in this country from France in the mid-17th century. Now, in about 1658, a couple of thousand of them went on the rampage, looting and generally being very unpleasant, and they were rounded up and well and truly trounced at the Battle of Pateley when you could hear the Geordie voices ring out, "Had away them galliacs."
Yes, yes. Well, it's a sailing vessel, it's a kind of a wine, and it's a kind of a gypsy. Frank Muir to pick whichever he chooses.
Are you sure, sir?
No, I'm not.
This might destroy
I could be wrong.
a tenuous friendship we've enjoyed up to now.
It's yours. Take it.
My friend said they didn't have white wine in the time of 1550.
Not in Languedoc, they didn't.
Not in Languedoc. So that's wrong. Is it a Portuguese vessel, or is it an antisocial gypsy? Galliac, he might be rusing us into thinking that it's like a galleon, a galliac. Might he not?
He might.
What do you think?
Well, I think you might be right. On the other hand, you might not.
I think it's
the gypsy. What? You think it's the gypsy?
You know the time is passing.
Yes, I know.
Very enjoyably, Patrick, very enjoyably.
What for them?
We, a minority of us here, but the most beautiful of us, think that it's your white wine from Languedoc.
That was
drunk by Henry VIII.
That was Patrick who said it, wasn't it?
On a Tuesday in 1550.
Yes. Never made in the Languedoc, you said, Alan, I think. Well, now we'll know.
Against the Canooser's advice.
Never in the South, Alan.
I never ordered anything much earlier than about 1975. 1550 is a bit off my wine list.
Enough said.
They go up to 3 bob, you know.
The lovely line flute there,
Anyway.
wasn't it, darling?
I don't know about Henry VIII, but anyway, much of what he said was true. It's there. I rang it, but it was already with us. Thank you, lads. Furbury, Frank, your turn.
Flushed with my partner's success, I am able to tell you, I'm here to tell you, that a Furbury... What is it? It's a kind of... it's a kind of trick. It's a kind of ploy. It's a kind of attempt to convince you of something, to bend your mind into believing something which is not really true. A typical example might be the 3-card trick or party political broadcast. If this was a bluff, I could attempt to execute a Furbury upon you and make you believe it's true.
What are you on about, Frank?
As it's true, I can't Furbury you.
But any time if you're free.
I've ground to a halt.
Well, that'll do very nicely, Frank.
Well, what was it?
It was a trick, he said, a trick. I'll repeat it again. Alan.
Watch carefully. Furbury. A lot of antisocial disorders in the world, you tend to find the more antisocial, the more euphemisms there tend to be. Furbury is scurf, dandruff, Furbury, or what in fact, I have it here, the Oxford Dictionary defines rather nastily as small bran-like particles of spent epidermis.
Charming, isn't it?
Bran-like strikes me as imponderable, but anyway, that's what Furbury is.
On a family show,
You've got a shirt full of all bran.
Let's ask Gabrielle what she's going to say.
Well, Milton knew very well what the verb Furbury meant. It came into one of his poems, I think it was Milton, wherein rich trees with fruit bright Furburied with golden rind hung amiable. It means to polish or to cause to sparkle or glint.
Yeah.
Jolly nice. Touch of class there. Very good, Milton, yeah. Anyway, it's dandruff. It's to polish, and it's a kind of a trick. Patrick's go.
All this shredded bran mash that people get on their but polishing trees with them. Whatever you're talking about, Frank, it's you.
You came to that rather swiftly.
It's kind of calm.
Kind of
it was Frank who said it was a trick.
Let's see it, lad.
Was it a trick,
It's a
Frank?
bluff, yeah.
Was it a trick?
No, it wasn't.
But it was. A Furbury is a trick. Failed in this case, alas. Oh, dear. Oslin is the next word we have, and it's Tom to go.
An Oslin was a member of a German heretical sect. And this sect was banned out of Germany in the 15th century. And they were forced to settle in the Upper Baltic. When the devil rides, you must go to the Upper Baltic if that's the only place to go. The only interesting thing I can think about the Oslins was they're probably the only religious sect in history to have been named after an Alsatian. Because their leader, Dieter Oss, who was a friar, he was also called Dieter Boy by his intimates, actually came from Alsatia.
It's got everything in it. Miriam's go now.
Well, oslin is an out-of-vogue material that was used in dresses in the old days. It's a beautifully loosely woven fabric of cotton and wool. It might even come back now that there's a fashion for calico and those lovely light, filmy materials. And in fact, if you know your East Lynne, it is actually mentioned in there, a pert and pretty damsel walking out in her oslin gown.
Sounds nice enough. Nice enough, nice enough. Patrick.
And oslin is a kind of Scottish eating apple. Better known as the Arbroath pippin. It used to grow in profusion within a scant 3 iron shot of the 18th green at Yon St Andrews.
Right.
You know that, don't you?
It's a wee Scots apple. It's a kind of a cloth and a kind of a religious heretic, I suppose. Yes, Alan Coren.
There are a lot of red herrings and red Alsatians and all the rest of it here. Tom's Alsatian that led people to the upper Baltic and asked them to follow him. Why did his intimates call him Dieter Boy? Was it an Alsatian? As it were, here, Dieter Boy. Anyway.
Kind of dialect.
I don't know about loosely woven fabrics. I mean, it sounds very like muslin, and were you casting a red heron, you might choose a loosely woven fabric. And East Lynne and Oslin, there's a lot of stuff going. I don't know about Arbroath pippin. I thought it was a very good flyweight that used to fight out of Glasgow. But still, yeah. I am inclined to turn back from pippins and muslins and all that sort of rubbish, back to Tom's Bolt.
The Bolt of whom he spoke. True or bluff?
Rin-tin-tin, German.
Nothing to do with that. Nothing. They'll own up now, or someone will. True. Who gave the true one? Must be there somewhere.
3 iron shot.
Aha.
18th St Andrews.
It is the Arbroath pippin. 2-1. Sinead is our next word. Alan Coren defines it.
There are lots of unsavoury things about the mackerel. You don't even have to leave them around to find what they are. They're very unsavoury alive, too. One of the things about the mackerel is that it is a cannibal. Yeah. It will eat its own kind, it will eat its own offspring, and no doubt in a lean week it'll even take a bite out of itself to help get by. But as a result of the mackerel being a cannibal, fishermen use bits of the mackerel to catch other mackerel. And the Sinead is a small piece taken from near the tail of the mackerel with which to bait the hooks so that other mackerel, hungry for a chomp on their relatives, come to the hook.
That kind of end only?
No.
Yes.
Yes, I think it's Gabrielle.
Yes. Well, Sinead is, in fact, smuggler's slang. It's the word that smugglers gave to a sort of ash leaf, which they dried and mixed in with their illicit imports of tea. As you know, tea used to be very, very expensive when it first was imported into this country. There was a heavy tax on it, and smugglers used to import it, and they used to mix it with these leaves in order to make it, of course, of a much larger quantity, and thus deteriorated the quality. You are awful, Pat.
Frank Muir has a turn.
It's fight and talk to call a Sinead a Sinead. A Sinead is he who, in the United States of America, doing a card game, probably poker, is timid, will not make good bids, refuses to make a gamble, a bit of a spoil sport. Sinead, S-N-A-D-E.
Yes, you've got the spell. There's no denying that. It's a kind of a bait. It's kind of a tobacco substitute, and it's, you know, they mix in with the tobacco, make it more...
Tea?
Tea.
Yes.
Tea, yes.
Wouldn't have to mislead them.
I'm shorthand note, that's the trouble. and a kind of very cautious gambler, Tom Baker.
Well,
wait a moment. Wait.
Would you like a song while I'm waiting?
In a minute.
Girls were made to love and kiss. And who am I?
Well, I'll make up for that. Yeah. Mackerel's tail used as bait. And that mackerel might... No. Spoil sport. Someone who won't know. Smuggler's jargon. Yes.
You mean you rest your case?
Come out with it.
Yeah, yeah. She said about the tea. Gabrielle, true or bluff? Tell us, lass.
You're big.
What a shocking thing to say to a member of your own team. Awful thing. Anyway, so who gave the true definition of Sinead?
Well, I'm afraid they really are.
Oh, no.
Very nasty animals.
Yeah, well, Sinead is what he said it was. I mean, bait. Miriam Molin is the next one. Score standing at 2-all. Miriam, your go.
Well, it's pronounced miramelin. It's a lovely soft word because it comes from a... it has connotations of glamour. In fact, it should be prefixed by Your Excellency, the Miramelin, because he was the potentate in the Middle Ages of Morocco, the potentate of Morocco. Now, if he'd been pushed to tell you what it actually meant, it does have an equivalent in English, and it's called the Commander of the Faithful. That's the translation.
Yeah.
Great. Patrick, here he comes.
They call them Miramelin.
You sure?
You can barely see it. You're in a state of deep depression. I've got the Miramelin. The same thing as the French le cafard. There's an English version of the cafard. Hopeless despair, misery, crying, your mother's gone on fire, the house is burning down. You got Miramelin.
What period?
What?
What period?
Now.
No.
Yeah, in Norfolk.
I was waiting for the regional touch.
I was going to say, now we know where we are. Thank goodness, Patrick. Thank goodness.
It might be right.
Norfolk at last. Tom Baker's go.
The word is Amira Molin, and it's a watchtower, which was commonly set atop a castle or a rich man's house, and in days gone by was very popular in places like Transylvania or Lusitania, places like that. And the purpose it served, of course, was to allow someone to stand at the top of his Amira Molin and look down and detect who was coming. And if it was a friend, then he was happy. And if it was an enemy, he could run down the stairs and lower the drawbridge or close the gate, depending on what sort of a place he had. Charming thought.
Yes. A nice thought, rather useful thing. It's the term you use when you address the Sultan of Morocco. It's a depression in Norfolk, and it's this kind of spy place, watchtower kind of thing. Gabrielle.
Yes. Well, now, I think my team and I are united here, which is delightful. We did. I mean, this hopeless despair. Yeah. Was it the Miramolin?
Yeah.
So many different pronunciations of this word.
Well,
I've heard of many words for hopeless despair, but I haven't heard of that, Patrick.
You'll come new to it, my darling, I promise you. Stick around.
Really? And as for this watchtower, Miramolin? Miramolin for a watchtower. I don't think it's the watchtower. I think that it is the word for the potentate of Morocco, a commander of the faithful.
Well, just sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't on this programme, but shall we find out? It was indeed you, Miriam, wasn't it? Yes. True or bluff?
Your unanimity is...
Sometimes it's Norfolk, sometimes it is the Sultan of Morocco. You never know when, but you did that time. Finimbrun is the next one. Gabrielle Drake.
A Finimbrun is no less than a trinket, a little piece of nonsense, a valuable little piece of nonsense, something like a Fabergé Easter egg or a little diamond brooch or something like that. And in fact, if it's the sort of thing, I mean, if a Cockney actress had been courted by a lord in the 17th century, 18th century, she'd say to her friend, I've just been given a lovely Finimbrun.
Oh, not in my whole life, ever.
Oh,
Next, please, thank you.
No, just mind. Frank, yours go.
Lovely, this. Tremendous word, this. Finimbrun. Midlands word. Notts, round around Nottingham. And it means... It's a tremendous time when you ate and ate and ate and ate, because because you're going into the fast, you see. So you want to eat plenty because you've got to go into the fast, going into Lent. It means Shrove Tuesday.
Yes. Alan's go. Alan Coren.
Finimbrun is a Highlander's short stick. They don't use them any longer. But there were times when the Highlanders were, well before the current football riots, were prepared to take one another apart on a Saturday night, since one came from a different clan from the other. And on said Saturday night, the various sets of clans and little pockets would sit in their small declivities in the Highlands, and a runner would come with a Finimbrun if a clan war was on the cards. If, as it were, the MacDonalds came over the hill, bloke would get up, run like hell, carrying the Finimbrun, short stick, about that large, pass it on. They couldn't shout, they couldn't use horns, obviously, because it would alert the other side. It was a token marked with the clan mark that was carried from group to group to make them aware that there was a clan war in the offing.
It's a fairly long word for a short stick, isn't it?
It's very hard getting it down it.
It's they say it's Shrove Tuesday. They say it's a kind of token of alarm in Scotland, passed on, you know, and a trinket, a thing of naught. Miriam.
Don't be about me.
No. I'll keep my own counsel, shall I?
Yes.
Right. They all seem attractive to me, actually, sitting where I am. Gabrielle's. Yes, a very nice Cockney accent.
Thank you.
Not many, yes, not many actresses were given Fabergé Easter eggs. They're very lucky lasses. Never mind. A Shrove Tuesday feast.
Shrove Tuesday.
Yes.
It's very near, isn't it?
Yes. And a Scottish stick for giving the alarm. Well, all in all, Frank, I'm going to go for the Shrove Tuesday get-together.
Shrove Tuesday itself, you said it was, wasn't it, Frank? Yep, true or bluff, he'll tell you
You're
now.
nailed, aren't you?
Ah. No. Not Shrove Tuesday, something else. Here it comes. Must know. Couldn't go home without knowing.
Oh, it's a lovely Finimbrun.
Yes. So a Finimbrun is a trinket or a little gift. Samba is the next one, and Patrick will define it for us.
You called samba. It's a light infantry, a soldier, Madagascar. And the guidance of Prince Ramada, a great kind of king, Madagascar. But these lads, little short hooked knives, they were murder on the battlefield.
Must have been.
You don't go near them. That's what they are. Stopper. Murder's back of the Madagascar. Short hooked soldiers, thank you.
Well, now, Tom Baker, what does he tell us?
If one went to tea with a Dalai Lama, it would almost be certain that he would serve you sambas. Sambas are small Tibetan cakes made of barley meal, and no self-respecting Tibetan would be seen dead without a tsamba in his hand. The interesting features of the tsamba are, while it's extremely nourishing, it's not all that appetizing to taste. Sir Richard Burton, when he was travelling in Tibet, wrote back in one of his letters and said that he'd had a belly full of tsambas, and they were quite disagreeable, even when all smeared with yak butter.
You hit his style off. We're always saying that sort of thing. Miriam, you're...
Well, in these days of electricity in the twin tub, tsambas have rather fallen from favour because they're the very necessary equipment for an Ethiopian laundress. And any other laundress, for that matter. They're those beautiful flat-topped stones, you know, where the ladies take their washing down to the river, find a lovely flat stone, and then hammer the daylights out of the washing.
So it's a kind of cake. It's kind of an infantryman, a Madagascan infantryman, and it's the washing stone that those who wash on stones beat the clothes against. Frank, your turn.
May I say that we are again unanimous? My beautiful, beautiful team, we're all completely unanimous. The Madagascan foot soldier rushing up and down with his hook knife, well, really.
What's wrong with him?
Well, there was the marvellous Bluff on the rancid Jack's butter cakes, which had everything in it. It had the Dalai Lama, it had Burton, Richard Burton, it had belly, the word belly. It was a full, rich dialogue. But nah. The flat stones on which ladies do their laundry are known worldwide as flat stones on which you do your laundry. So it must be the Madagascan foot soldier.
Ah, that was Patrick, wasn't it? Yes, Patrick tells us now. Was it true? Was it a bluff?
Slashing around with a knife.
And it was a bluff. What could it possibly have been then? I wonder which of the other two. He's got it there, has he? Can it? Yes, it is. And the whole thing smeared in yak butter, and for once it's true. Oh, I say, just got nice time. No, we haven't got nice time. We've got rather swift time for Moley. Frank, rather briskly.
Moley is an Indian gardener of the second class, junior to an Indian gardener of the first class.
Right, Adam.
Earthenware jar hanging from roof of covered wagon full of water so that those beleaguered could have a quick.
Right. And Gabrielle.
Moley means to be exactly like a mole, to burrow, i.e. like all those people from Colditz who used to escape by tunnelling under and wooden horses and things. Well,
so it's a kind of a water pot, and it's a kind of a, like a moley, and it's a inferior Indian gardener. Patrick.
Well, certainly it's a little moley, isn't it, from a mole?
You're choosing it?
Yeah.
Gabrielle.
No, wait!
Ah! We haven't got
it's
much time.
A water pot.
Water pot of Alan Coren. Well...
You're absolutely...
Now, for the real juice of the occasion, who gave the true definition? It is!
You can't win them all, Danny.
You snatched the cup from your own lips.
You can't win them all. Really.
You're right. It would have been rotten. You're quite right. Anyway, there we come. End of the game, 3-5, and Frank Muir's team has won. So we'll have another rack of words surplus to our hire department next week. Until then, goodbye from Tom Baker.
Good night.
Alan Coren. Miriam Stoppard. Gabrielle Drake. Patrick Campbell. Frank Muir. And goodbye. Oh, what wretched luck, what wretched luck. Good evening. This is Call My Bluff, which features, as ever, the plausible Frank Muir.
I think every show should start with a beautiful moment. And what more beautiful moment could one have than to say that my first guest is Gayle Hunnicutt? My next guest isn't very beautiful, but he's practical. He's a journalist, he's a book critic, he's the film critic of The Observer, and also, as some of you probably noticed, he's also an impressionist with a wicked ear. It's Russell Davies.
And that very mature leprechaun, Patrick Campbell.
Thank you. My first guest is a beautifully funny girl. On leave from Faulty Towers could only be Prunella Scales. And the other one is a gentleman on leave from The Good Life, Paul Eddington.
So I ring the bell and we get the first word, and that word is Pancelet or Pancelet. I don't know. They'll pronounce it umpteen different ways, I don't doubt. Anyway, Frank and his team will define Pancelet 3 different ways. 2 are false, 1 is true. And that's the one that Patrick and co. are going to try and pick out. So, Frank, what of this word?
You're an early English carver, or perhaps head of a household, nobleman. You've got the leg of lamb in this hand, about to dig the knife in, and the leg of lamb goes zoomp across the floor because the grease is flown out of your hand. Likewise, you've got a chop. All your hands get greasy as you into your mouth, you see. So what you do is you wrap a bit of linen round it, you see, a pencillet, and you've got both a hand hold and also a hold that stops the grease getting on your fingers. Silly, I know, but...
Well, it is pretty silly, isn't it, really? But think on, with the best will in the world.
It's silly-ish, I would say.
A kind of anti-greased rag, really, in a word. Well, 3 words.
Let's try Russell Davies, shall we?
Well, a pantsulet is a high-heeled shoe for man's second or possibly third best friend, the horse. It's a shoe in which the ends are thickened and strengthened not to beautify the ankles of the beast or to make it look taller, but simply to supply strength to an injured heel.
Right. Now it's Gayle Hunnicutt to tell us something.
Yes, my lady, you tell me all about it.
I will. A pantsulet is a net which is found in Cambridgeshire.
Near enough, yeah. Smile, anything goes.
And it's actually used for snaring snipe. You take it, it's made of finely woven horsehair, and you take it and you throw it over a bush or a hedge or anything in which you think a snipe might be lurking, and it traps the poor little thing.
It's cruel, really, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it's a net for getting hold of snipe and so on. It's something to hold meat with, stop your fingers getting greasy. Special high-ish sort of horseshoe. Patrick chooses now.
Now, come along.
Well, now, all this... I can't say either word like a snipe snare. I did it! It isn't a snipe snare at all, because if it was a snipe snarer, it'd be called a snipe snarer. An anti-grease rag. It's called a pantsulet.
No.
You say, pass me the pantsulet on the carpet. Get away. This is a kind of... Is it? I think it's kind of horse's boot. No, wait, do I? Yes, I do, really.
Horses? You're quite sure?
Yes.
Wants it to be the horse's high... That was Russell Davies who said it. Was he telling the truth? True or bluff? Yeah, it is. You followed your instinct there. The other week you just missed it.
Long walk.
Yeah. Well. Cop tank is our next word, and Patrick Campbell will tell you what it means.
And a cop tank, a regulation headwear for a fully paid up, card-carrying male Puritan. A kind of hat that almost mounted to a kind of cone on top, but not quite. It kind of got sawn off before it got to its ultimate cone. And you could have it like the Henry Ford Model T, any colour you like, if it was black.
Right. Paul Eddington tells you.
Well, I haven't consulted all the reference books, but I believe that the most celebrated cop tank in this country is the so-called Bewdley Bowl, which is one of the principal treasures of Ripon Cathedral. It's a jewel-encrusted bowl, and it is, in fact, a christening cup. Not a christening mug, it's a thing for conveying holy water from the font to the forehead of the baptizee.
Hose.
What? It's a christening cup.
Hose.
No.
Oh.
No. It's a cup.
What hose was that?
What hose? Yes. No. Let's get on with it. Prunella, your go.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning that the British used captured cop tanks in 1653 as fireboats to attack Van Tromp's anchorage. It's a Dutch waterman's boat normally used on waterways such as the Zuiderzee, kop tank, for repairing and maintaining dikes.
Right. So it's a kind of christening mug, it's a Puritan's hat, and it's a Dutch boat. And Frank Muir will tell you which he has out of that lot.
Well, no problem here. Just, one tiny one, which one it is. It's Puritan hat. It's very interesting.
Pewter hat, no.
Puritan hat.
Or is it pewter hat? No. Puritan hat, yes.
Church vase, I think it's a sort of tank and Coptic. One's led to believe on that. And the corped tank for the vessel seems to be... Right. I am going to choose one of those three. I'm going to go for the Puritan hat. Paddy.
Puritan hat, Patrick. Yes, it was. Patrick, will you tell us?
I'm amazed.
You got it? Everything he said about it was true. It's a Puritan's hat. And it's 1-1 now, and the next word is slinge. At least that's the way I'd say it. Russell Davies, your go.
Well, slinge is a nice, disgusting word, a tin miner's word, for finely crushed or powdered ore rendered down into a sort of mud. So a tin miner with slinge on his boots is the last man you want to have Morris dancing across your Axminster.
Morris dancing across it?
It's slinge, Cornish tin miner's muck.
Stuff on his boots, yep. Right, Gayle Hunnicutt.
To slinge, it's a verb, yes. It means to skulk or loaf or loiter about. It's one of those lovely words that's a bit of slang, English slang, made up of slink and lounge, hence slinge. And you might hear it used by a sergeant major on parade ground. If he had some Royal recruits, he'd tell them to stop that slinging and get cracking.
And get what?
Cracking. That's what we say in Texas.
Hit the voice off awfully well. Frank.
It's your turn.
Bit of a cold. Move away from the set. A slinge, roughly speaking, is slightly less than a quarter of a cow. But years ago, it's round about the period November to about March. And if you wanted to find a slinge, you wouldn't find it on a cow because there weren't any cows, because they hadn't got any fodder, so they used to slaughter them. So a slinge, in fact, this almost a quarter of a cow, existed in a bucket of brine. And regularly bits of it were brought out, cut off, and boiled up to make a nice winter meal with herbs. It's a quart of a dead cow pickled. Oh, it isn't. Oh, it isn't. I leave it to you. Leave it entirely to you, the decision.
So it's bits of a cow pickled. It's to loaf about, and it's powdered sort of tin ore when made into mud. Sticks on your boots. Paul Eddington, what do you think?
Just blaze away on your own.
Yes, well, I'm not attracted, who would be, to the piece of cow in brine. And it... Oh dear, that's unsettled me. I think, too, that the idea of slinge, of skulking, it's a bit too... Is the word onomatopoeic?
Exactly, yes.
Thank you, yes. It seems a bit too easy to me, slinging about. I like the idea of the mud, the muddy ore, or whatever it is.
That's what you're going to choose, is it? You've decided on that, right? That was Russell Davies. True or bluff? No, he was fooling you. Now we need to know. None of us can go home tonight without knowing what slinge actually means. Here it comes.
Let's see if that...
I'm afraid you weren't skulking enough.
It means to loaf, to hang around, you know, like that, and it does sound like it, and so she was right in all she said. Ah, well, yes, try again. Run at it. Potamogaton, I would say. I don't know what Paul Eddington, how he pronounces it.
Yes, a potamogaton is the end product of a piece of necromancy, a piece of magic. It's a sort of manifestation as a result of a spell. I suppose the most celebrated piece of potamogaton, or I'm not sure, yes, potamogaton, was recorded about the ancient Greek necromancer called Nicias, who entirely by himself, without any assistance whatsoever, conjured up an entire city called Campbell. People actually walked in the streets and sat under the trees and so on and imagined they'd seen it. It was all a bit of hokum, a bit of potamogaton, in fact.
Pretty hard work, I should think, but still. Prunella.
Well, potamogaton grows practically anywhere you find fresh water. The celebrated traveller-explorer Ernest Floyer, having noted it on a duck pond in Lincolnshire, was astounded to find the very same thing in darkest Baluchistan. It is a floating freshwater pondweed with oblong leaves growing in any freshwater anywhere.
Leaves, oh.
Yep, right. Patrick, what do you say?
Well, potamogaton, it's a rather ponderous, polysyllabic imitation, funny word for a heavy drinker. The word potamogaton, it first appeared in print in the Times, the correspondence columns, I think 1908, not sure about that.
What about
but
the
some
bit?
pompous ass wrote to the Times to say, at the moment, though I'm not an apostle of temperance, neither am I to be numbered among the ranks of the tottering pocototoplons.